Hey, this is a video response to Shafe's video about Reek, Tyreek. When you asked about professional football, I immediately thought of a joke, man. Here's my joke. I stand for the flag, and I only kneel for the cross. Making fun of Republicans and their morality, which I suppose it's wrong to make fun of morality. Then, when your video said Reek, I was hoping in my heart of hearts, which deep down inside therewith may reside a nerd, I was hoping that it was going to be about Game of Thrones. When Bolton's bastard son emasculated the heir to the Iron Islands, and that we were going to talk about, his torture and castration and how he was renamed Reek in the series. But anyway, I watched the body cam footage, and to answer your question, I as I was watching it, I always wondered, bullshit like Puff Daddy and some of these other very wealthy people, how they get caught somewhere with a firearm or something happens. I always wonder, how on earth do cops get close enough to a person that's that wealthy and that famous to have that thing even happen? Is it because those people still act ghetto? It doesn't make sense to me, because I always imagine if... Now, I've never quite had fuck you money, but, a few years ago we were doing all right, and we do relatively okay now. And I don't have a problem with the police, like, shit, The only time I ever got pulled over would have been, like, when I was driving this shitty-ass 1995 Taurus with the bumper falling off and shit. That thing was a magnet. And it's just, when you're... To me, it didn't seem like it was necessarily about race, but obviously it might be. But it's also about being poor. Now, before making this video, I did some research, because I don't follow the NFL. Not for moral reasons, just so much as... I got work, I got hunting, I can't really keep up with sports hardly. It's all I can do to tangentially keep track of the win-loss record of my preferred college football team. So it's just a matter of time. I enjoy watching professional sports, and I take in a little bit of the NFL from time to time, and I found the Taylor Swift thing pretty fascinating. But as I was watching that, it was interesting footage, interesting body cam footage. Good on the officer for turning on the camera. I'm not sure what led up to that stop. It just seems to me, with the information that I'm provided with, I did some research later on. It seems like he was driving carelessly, which had them pull him over. But the way the body cam footage plays out, like as if they pulled him over for not wearing his seatbelt. And then instead of providing him with his license and insurance, he rolled the window up. Now, I researched that, and you would think as a Florida resident I'd know this offhand, but you're required to provide license and insurance proof. After that, you can invoke your right to remain silent, which Reek didn't seem to do that correctly. However, from a law enforcement standpoint, I don't think it was a good call to open his door for him and pull him out of the car. Just from the standpoint of, say that person was doing anything, it muddies the water of prosecution. So you're going to make careless driving, you're going to escalate it to that under the thoughts of, you got a black man and I'm guessing that's either a Lamborghini or a McLaren. What are you thinking, that he's a drug dealer? But then, Reek, and I assume the other person who stopped was a teammate. I didn't research to get his name, but he knew enough. Like when Reek said, "Hey, call Drew," the other person knew who Drew was, which is the Dolphins head of security. That was that situation. I found it also interesting in the footage that so the officer was very matter of fact, like, listen, you can't stop that vehicle here. Who's the driver? Provide me your license. He kept on point with that. I don't think he was wrong there. I observed that the passenger of that other sport utility vehicle, the other thing that made me think that the other person was a teammate, obviously that was a high dollar sport utility vehicle with suicide doors for the back. The back doors were suicide doors. So man, that's money. I don't know which vehicle does that. Maybe a high-end Land Rover. I don't even know. So the whole thing was a mess. It looked like there were 4 motorcycles pulling him over. So how carelessly he was driving prior to that, I don't know. His history of criminalness, that domestic violence thing in 2019, I'm not sure if that pertains. If he was in college in 2019, that tells me he's in his mid-20s, so the guy's still a kid with millions of dollars, or what he thinks is millions of dollars right now. The aggression that those officers showed, I think it is interesting that they all seem to be Latino. I also thought it was interesting that the one officer that originally put him down, like, he had tattoos all the way past like his wrist line down to his hand. Now, I don't know how to put this. So, close friend of mine is friends of a guy I know. And this guy I know, his wife doesn't like this close friend. And, he's got tattoos up and down his arm. And he spent time working vice with the county sheriff, like undercover vice. Well, this guy's wife doesn't like him at all because she just finds him to be a thug. Like, just because you're a cop doesn't mean you're not necessarily a thug from this guy's wife's point of view. And seemed that way with the officer. When I see a person, this bullshit about, people with tattoos, not everybody's bad, and our friend Corey's got a lot of tattoos and that sort of thing, and he's a good guy, but Corey does have an edge to him. But it's telling when you have tattoos, certain tattoos past the wrist line, up in the neck, on your head. It states something about, potentially states something. Let me correct that. It potentially states something about compulsion and control. It seemed to me also that those officers were getting upset, which isn't good. Anytime you're upset, it hurts your objectivity. And again, you put the department in a situation to where the prosecution may not be able to make anything stick, whether it's legitimate or not. I don't know. I mean, if the window was up and it was too dark to see inside, and the customer or the officers were in fear of their danger, perhaps you could open up the person's door to physically detain them. Not sure where the threat is. You know, he kept the car running the whole time too. So he refused to shut the car off, refused to provide his license and registration and proof of insurance. So big time shit show. You know, I would rather, I think, have strong officers present at that like they did, versus in the case of other situations, you've got some officers wanting to go this way, oh, you're going too hard. Some officers going that way, oh, you're going too soft. You know, you don't get a second chance, and you don't get the luxury of going easy and hoping everything goes okay. You know, you have to ensure your own security. Found it interesting that they let the other guy just go into the sport utility vehicle to get his license when he didn't have it on him. That to me was a bit of a mistake. They crossed, there's a line. So let's go back to when they pulled Reek over. They crossed the line of his door, which we call the line of death, you know, during a pullover. Because if you're even with that window, say that person does have a weapon, and this happens, man, cops get shot through the window. You don't cross that line. That line of death's called the line of death for a particular reason. You know, you stand behind that line, knock on the window, make sure he hears you to roll down the window. And I'm thinking you hold, and you get the driver to comply. You know, maybe may have your license and proof of insurance. Please shut off the vehicle. Please put your hands where I can see them. But they got in his face. They got pretty personal, and you know, he's enough of a hood rat, like what you were saying, Shafe. I mean, he's playing games, and then, you know, he doesn't know that just because you're rich doesn't mean you're exempt. And then his buddy comes up, he's playing games. Oh, they're beating on Reek. Crazy, man, crazy. Thanks for sharing. And if you do watch Game of Thrones, Shafe, what do you think about Reek being emasculated, and how, what do you think of his ending? All right, man, catch you later.